This is 2OF Entertainment.
We're back. So here we are.
Yeah. Good day, sir.
Good day. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I thought it's gonna be it'll be a fun show today. I just
It will be. We have a phenomenal artist on today. I have his work right over there in the corner. It'll be not the usual boring guest. This guest is really primo. So
well, there you go. Well, I seem to know the guy fairly
yeah.
well, but yeah, I just thought we got a bit of a lull in our programming, and I just thought it was good an opportunity to, I guess, I'll show some stuff that I've got.
There you go. We're gonna actually today's Paul's the artist. So when I leave, Paul's gonna talk to himself, ask his own questions, answer his own questions, and I'll come back and ask how much everything costs. No, I will be here throughout the show, much to the dismay of the fans. But Paul's stuff is phenomenal, and this is how David and I first met Paul about his activism art, and that's what started Canadian Art Today.
Yeah, so I guess that's what we're going to talk about today. I felt people seeing too much landscapes and pictures and stuff, and I said, well, is there another type of art out there that an artist might like to do, and is how they go about it. This is a personal way how I go about what I do, and it just seems to pop up, and all of a sudden I say, yeah, I got to say something, I got to do something, because we always sit back in our chair and you say, I can't do anything, I'm just going to wait and see what somebody else does. Somebody else is going to do it for me. We saw what's happening in the States right now. Somebody else is going to fix it for me. I'll just wait because my vote won't make any difference, or what I say doesn't make any difference. So as an artist, you can make that choice yourself. You can be public about it or private about it. You can do whatever you like. But this is the way I do it. And I try to find spaces, and we'll talk about that and where I show them and what kind of reaction, maybe even get, but I haven't got any black eyes yet. So, okay.
It's always a first. So for all you people watching in America, we're going to be charging you a 25% tariff to watch. So just to let you know, keeping up with the Donnie. So, which actually now I guess he's rescinded for 30 days because you've now got an opium czar that we're putting in to make sure that we get no more drugs across the border. So, see.
Well,
welcome to the new world.
It's a whole, that's his world. I just sort of, it seems kind of artificial, but I don't know. I just kind of.
Well, here, let me just say this about tariffs, which is pretty funny. Most people don't understand how they work. So when they hear there's a 25% tariff, they're like, oh, good, Canada, China, whoever pays it. No, idiot, you pay it. And they don't get that. It's like if it was $1 now, and now it costs me as the importer $1.50. And you used to pay $2 for it. Now you're going to pay $3 for it. So the importer and the consumer is who pays for a tariff. And the public thinks, oh, China pays. No. So learn economics or do a math class, but can't help you other than that. So
and that 25% goes into the government coffer.
Yeah.
Doesn't go back to the artist or anybody else. And the seller. That goes into the receiving government's box. So I don't know. And hopefully it goes into your coffers, not somebody else's pocket. But anyway.
Yeah, it goes into Musk, the new Goebbels of America. Goes into Goebbels.
Talk about something else.
There you go. The Nuremberg trials are only right around the corner. Anyway, let us go into art and activism with Paul Constable. This is, there it is. Usually I disappear. We bring in an artist. Now today I have to ask questions.
In there, yeah, you'll do fine.
I know.
If you can pay attention to this, we got it.
I draw stick figures all day.
I'm hoping nobody falls asleep, and I think it's not only important for the artist to think about this, but also the public, general public, to understand the energies that an artist goes through you got to think things through. You got to do research. You got to do a lot of things. These aren't a lot of times just little flippant things.
Right.
Some are subtle and some are more hit you right in the face kind of stuff. So anyway, I've got about 4 or 5 versions of this thing. So hang in there.
Let's take off. Let's see what we got.
Grab your coffee and away we go. There we go.
There you go. And we'll start. There you go.
Man, everybody's scared. So,
All right.
this is from one of the shows, and we will talk about not this image, but some other images that go along with this show.
Okay.
As we go into farther, this is just my opening title. I just thought it meant easy. This character is my muse for this show. This one here that is up on the screen, but we'll come to that in a minute. So that's just my opening slide title. So we'll go to the next image.
I like it. It's a nice image. Very powerful.
We can come back to this one when it comes time to, but
Okay.
this one is actually from an actual thing that I did a painting from. So
Okay.
we'll continue.
All right. Here we go.
Here we go. Here's my shirt.
Yeah. Sure.
It still fits. I can't believe it.
There you go. There you go. There's Paul. There's his shirt.
There we go. So back in 1987, this is kind of where I started with some of the I guess it's called an activism. I was working full time in the agency.
Right.
Gosh forbid they gave me a photocopier to work with. That was my tool of the day, was a photocopier. We didn't have phones. We were analog. We worked actually with newspapers. I had a few contacts there, and so we go through a process of what had happened is we had normally a call for entries for artists. It was every second year in our city of Saskatoon, and the other year would go to Regina. So it was a provincial call for artists for it was called the Mendel Open. And it used to be called the Saskatchewan Opening, and people from all across the province artists could submit work for this show in the major gallery, and it's a public gallery. Well, we had this call for entries, but we found out there was more artists refused than entered, and it was one of those things that the gallery filled up fast as the curator curated it, and so many pieces got rejected that I decided, gosh, got to do something about this. And so we created a refuse show.
Okay.
This is a church that is just down the street from the gallery. And so we rented the basement, and we grabbed all the artwork that was being refused and by the artists, and we fired it into the basement for, I think it was 17 hour show over Friday night and a Saturday. We had to close because Sunday they needed
you got to pray.
Yeah, they needed the space for something in their church. I don't know what was going on. Anyway, so this banter started a couple of weeks, I'd say a month ahead of time, and we were collecting work and getting it all gathered, and I was busy, letter to the editor, writing back and forth. The Mendel Art Gallery was Terry Fenton was responding through one newspaper as to everything I said. He said something else, and it created a positive energy. People wanted really to see what artwork was refused, you know, and that became the real thing that people wanted. So, this is Jeff Spaulding, now passed away, amazing man, great artist and also curator. But Spaulding was hired to be the curator of this show, and he chose the look of the show that he thought would look well together, because it comes in a potpourri of everything. You have to disseminate stuff. You can say, I can't put that in, this is too big, that doesn't work, and try to build a show around the look. And it was troublesome to him, because if you had to read the article, he was expecting more creative stuff and pushing the envelope a little bit more, and I think a lot of safe stuff got sent in. Gotcha. And this is me looking back at after 20 some years as to what it is. But anyway, so he chose his own show, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it was. But in essence, we opened about an hour earlier on the Friday night, purposely, before their big opening. And we had a whole kid crew run around and put little leaflets and flyers under all the window screens of if everybody in the parking lot at the Mendel Art Gallery. So we had this foot traffic. It was a nice warm May night, and people came to our show and came to their. They got to see both all the work that was submitted, pretty much. We
Oh,
didn't
cool.
get everybody. We didn't get everybody. We just couldn't get a hold of everyone. They picked their work up and went away. But generally, we got to show almost a full show between the two spaces. So it created quite a bit of energy. We had over 500 people, 550 people come through our space.
Wow.
We made it so that these people could vote on the pieces they liked in the show.
Okay.
And we gave a cash award to the artists as well.
So did you charge admission
Nope,
for
it
people
was
to come in?
free.
No,
A
straight. Okay.
donation. We had one of those big wine donation glasses, and people just
Gotcha.
fired. I think there was 3 inches of coinage in there and some bills. So it was well, all the money
That's when there were coins, Paul. There's no more coins.
yeah, well, it paid for all the pizza and
There you go.
volunteers, but then any of the money left over we gave to Carfac and the Artist Distress Fund. So the money was all, I think, almost over $1,000. I think we gave to them just in excess revenue. People willingly paid to see all that, and we were grateful to them. Now,
I know this one.
You know this one. Well, I'll change this one up. Segue to my next thing. This is about 2007 when this was kind of coming about. What was happening? I was driving between the two cities in Saskatchewan, between Saskatoon and Regina. It's a couple-hour drive, twinned highways, and you noticed that there was so much animal carnage on the road. It was brutal, and I thought, I don't want this to be a roadkill thing, but it's just how do I make people understand what is happening to our environment by not only excessive speeds, you're putting corridors through areas where deer and moose and small animals and coyotes and fox and whatever going to water, going to habitats to live in. They got to cross double set of lanes. They don't cross at the deer crossing sign. People don't understand that doesn't work that way. Anyway, that's just about when cell phones became really popular, 2007, 2008. And I did some research and I noticed that a lot of the, I guess, collisions have created a lot of damage, but also the cost factor to insurance companies was massive, millions and millions of dollars. Well, they ballooned those 2 years between 2000 and 2008 because of driver talking on their phone, distracted, and accidents. Not only did people die, but also a lot of animals died.
Right.
But it's just the nature of they don't, the understanding. But what it did is it impacted everything, Stephen. The coyote, after a few years of this, the coyotes kind of went to the highway for smorgasbord. So they could live closer to the city. They had larger group pups, larger families. So they all become more aware of us and not afraid of us. Right now we have coyotes and fox walking through all the neighborhoods all the time.
Wow.
And we're in the city. And we have a few educated ones out of the university in the city too.
Okay. Very nice. So it's good to have educated them.
It's kind of nice to see animals running around, but you don't really want a coyote running around. They kind of looking for poodles and little dogs, and maybe you never know with them. You don't want to get bit by anything. Anyway, I created this show, 20 some paintings, and it became more of a show of how animals are brought back into the earth, like how they become part of the cycle. And I got a ray. I thought it was really important to make these objects, the mixture of sculpture and paintings, interactive, so you could walk in and around them. But the sculpture become part of what the problem was. So those ravens and birds are made from car parts. They're made from bumpers and fenders of cars. So it's kind of not a contradiction, but you just kind of say, wow, that's kind of, why is that? It's made from the object that killed it, right? It looks like something that was there. the tire raven in the foreground was made from 2 tires, and he actually sits in my living room right now. But
Now we have a show for people that want to see it. The very first Canadian Art Today show, way back. If you go on the playlist, well, actually, Paul was discussing it, and actually, you got close-ups of this, and it's fascinating to see how they were made.
I think I
Just for
got
anybody that's
we'll go back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
We got one coming up. But,
Okay.
yeah, even in the middle, you can see there's a carcass. I built a carcass out of car parts, so
Right.
it's mostly made from truck running boards and fenders, and they just to simulate something. It actually has lights that go off and on. Like
Oh
I've got
wow.
lights in tucked in underneath it, and it all sits on a board with looks like a road with a line on it. So it just
Very
kind of
cool.
gives you a context of that. This actual shot was so where I show these, I make proposals to public galleries. This one's actually shown in the Chapel Gallery. Or no, it's this one. It did show at the Chapel Gallery in Battleford, but this one is in Humboldt.
Okay.
And and so some of these are quite large paintings in the background. Like I've got a couple here. Well, but I go through a drawing process. I have hundreds of drawings, and these could be from actual. I get out of the car and go and take photos of carnage in the ditch. Like it's kind of it's weird, right? It's not a thing I like to do. And I did actually take some bones back and bleach them
Okay.
and work with them because you have to have reference material. This for anybody wanting to know, this show will be available this September coming at Francis Morrison Library in Saskatoon. So it's
Very
been
cool.
it's never been it's never been shown in Saskatoon before. That's one of the criterion, and so it'll be up there for a month in middle of September. So these are some of the drawings, like I said, I do in sketchbooks, and so I really try to get immersed in what I'm doing a little bit, not photograph some, but then I'll start drawing and drawing, and then I'll paint and draw from the drawings. And so this is one of the paintings. It's
Gotcha.
3648. So it's a little bit about environment and habitat, and
Right.
it shows a little bit of how these bones are part of the environment. I guess they're growth and they're dependent on each other, but it also has a lot of the symbolisms in it. But I like the fact that people can see visuals, then walk and go around the sculpture. So
Right.
you just walking into a large space with just pictures on the wall gives you one feeling, but I think when you can actually walk around something else, oh, that's a car part that comes from a car, and maybe that story starts to connect. You don't see any car parts in this painting, for instance.
Right. No,
So
this painting is vibrant. It's very pretty.
it's a vibrant
So
painting.
yeah, it is.
This one sits in a home is actually part of. So art can be beautiful,
Right.
even in this context of many artists have drawn their mother's dead and all kinds of things. I
Right.
don't know where
Right.
you want that one, but they sit in major museums and things. By Whistler, I think, did one of his mother on a deathbed, and
Well, Whistler,
oh,
he's just a
Whistler,
strange
okay.
guy. You know how it goes. This one's very beautiful. And if you didn't tell somebody it had anything to do with like death or carcasses or bones, you would never know.
Yeah, this is it's 8 feet long, so
Wow.
it's a big painting. But so there
There
they
we
are.
go. There they are. I have one. I have the paper mache one in the office here, but these are awesome. One day I'm going to get the tire one. I just have to figure out where I'm going to put it.
Yeah,
So
I'll just have to ship it ground somehow on a
yeah,
pallet. It's too tired. Yeah,
just
just too
drive up
tired.
and get it.
It's just too tired.
There you go.
But
There's the
anyway,
Raven.
they each are very, very different in the sculpture aspects of them. Their tires are nasty to work with.
Okay.
Um, they're just all the steel belting that's in them.
Right.
They're not just rubber. You got to cut through those steel belts that they will dull. I had to use the diamond tooth hacksaw blades and different things. Just and you can hear the tines break each one you cut. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh wow.
And
So to make them, the bottom one, the on the right, how long does it take then for you to make a raven? And then of course the one on the left, but the bottom one on the right, if someone says, I want a raven, how long does it take to make that kind of a raven?
it's probably quicker now than in day one, because day one
Okay.
was more R&D. You're just trying to figure out,
Gotcha.
how do I give the look of this. I had the idea of how these two tires would be wrapped, but when you take one apart and put it together, but there now that tire raven's a couple of days probably to
Okay.
make one. Um, there's actually some um, bicycle tires, I think, or motorcycle tires as part
Okay.
of in here. Just understanding how to make feet from the tire.
Right.
They're all one piece of tire.
Right.
And it's exciting when you're making them, because that's cool, that happened. So basically the feet were made from some of the motorcycle tire, and when you cut between the toes they
Right.
automatically go like that.
Oh
Like,
wow.
this was, whoa, wow. That's cool. And so I was having fun, but short of that I thought, I'm going to have to take them apart, put them on one at a time. But you don't
Right.
have to. It kind of did it all on its own.
Very cool.
But it's kind of and the other one on the top is more complicated. It's in its own sense. You're really sourcing a lot of bumpers, and also the same kind of bumper, so all
Huh.
black, same kind of texture on them, to give you the feeling of what you want. This one is his name is Armageddon,
Okay.
and he's a tough bugger. Okay, but 6 foot wingspan on this one. They
Wow.
don't weigh a lot, but they gobble up some space. And I usually hang them, suspend them with fish line. So
Gotcha.
I've done that a number of times. Anyway,
Well,
we'll
very
move
pretty.
along. This is another one of that series of paintings. There's like I said, 18 or 20 plus hundreds of drawings that I have to
Right.
sort through for this next show. It's going to be refreshed a little bit with some new stuff. So um, this one is a very, very, wow. You can see how the bones are being put back into the land. But as I learned with paintings, when you paint them late at night or listening to radio or while you're doing this thing,
Mm.
I was and I couldn't believe I was painting this stuff, and stuff, you're kind of on an automatic process. Things just start going together. So
Mm.
the bones slash tombstone things in the background just are there, and there's a fantasial part of these florals, the flowers, because you're at ground level looking up.
Right.
And then with the diorama, you have this bone skeleton thing in the bottom. And I was listening to this CBC radio, and it was on the Holocaust.
Mm.
So I was going away, and I thought I was painting, and I was listening to this show, and then all of a sudden I had stopped, and I realized all of a sudden these weren't bones of a deer anymore. I was seeing these sacked bodies that were
Hmm.
mass burial thing. And I go, oh no, that can't be that. And I just move on. But this is how paintings are. They can take
Right.
on a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But even the artist painting them, understanding that they can take on other things that your mind picks up
Hmm.
and you don't realize it. So it's a beautiful painting. I don't expect somebody hangs this up in their living room above the house.
No,
But
you put that in the kids' room, and that's I think yeah. So the kids will have good sleep. That's where I would stick it. So,
anyway, that's what happened to me. And a lot of people
wow.
say, oh, that's sinister. That's icky. I don't like that. But as an artist, you normally don't tell everybody about everything about your work. But I'm just saying paintings can take on different things in
Right.
lives. Are those tombstones in the background, or just bones sticking up, or are they tree roots?
Right. I was
Like,
going to say, if you don't tell anybody about it and they just look at it, it's going to be like, oh, there's some white stuff that could be whatever, and then you just look, and you've got the nice flowers, and in the background, almost in the very very back, it almost look like it could be like a little city back there.
That's a
you
beautiful
know, to
day.
the right side, and then to the left side could be whatever. So yeah, so if you didn't tell anybody the story, no one would even know.
That's sort of what I'm doing here. I'm telling you a
Yeah.
little bit. That's nice
You
to
know what I'm
be able
saying? But
to.
if I was at an art gallery and you weren't there, and I go, oh, I like that, and they go, oh, do you want to know the story? And I was like, no, I just like it. Then you know, it's one thing. If someone says, tell me the story, by the time they're done, they're going to be like, then on Halloween we have to like cover it up. So, but you know, but no, but it's very, once again, it's not as vivid as the other, but it's still vivid and it catches your eye and the detail of everything.
Right.
From,
It
if
has
you will, the bodies or the stones, if you will, from the foreground to the background, everything catches your eye in this.
I think initially you'd see that as just a skeletal bones.
Yeah,
Uh,
like a dinosaur, a big dinosaur. That's what I thought. That's what I look at, like so large. I'm like, oh, it's a dinosaur. So you know, it's, even though it's technically not. So we
wow.
remember these.
You remember these. Yeah.
Yep,
How apropos,
yep,
as they say. So, we fast forward now to, I guess initially it was 2016 when stuff was starting to happen.
right.
Trump's first inauguration, and he's in power. First thing he does is he imposes a 24%, I think, tariff on, I guess initially when Canada was lumber and milk.
Hmm.
I said, how? It was ludicrous in the day, just what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So I thought, well, I had to do something.
Right.
And I thought it needed to be powerful, but it also needed to be bright and cheerful and positive. And we show annually at this big public space on the university grounds, and uh, so we thought, and it's a beautiful space, but it had these pillars, and I thought, oh, why don't I do something a little Liechtenstein like Roy, right?
Right.
It needed to be pop art. It needed to be in your face. It needed to be bam, you know. And so I
Explode.
happened to, yeah. So I happened to be going by one of the grocery stores, and they had two of these the mini carts, the mini
Right. Right.
shopping carts. And they were the wheel was bent a couple of things. I said, no, he gave them to me. He said, here, just
That
have
was
them for your
nice.
project. So what I did is you can see how the two carts are nestled into the post. Well, I cut the corners out of the baskets so that they could be put into the corners they could get closer together.
Okay.
So they're not just squared up on the ends. They're actually 90-degree cut out of them, and with an angle grinder, I cut them out and they actually fit together, closer together. So I was trying to, basically it had you could see the milk on the floor, which was really fun to make. It was a big piece of plastic, and I had paint put on it, right? And then cut the plastic out after it dries, and then you just lay it on the floor. So, and milk jugs and lumber and a bit of stuff on there. So,
Right.
and then one of our, I tried to get it in a couple places, but everybody, all the retailers sat on their hands. Nobody wanted to show this thing. It
Right.
wasn't. It wasn't a thing that even public spaces were, you know, they hadn't had any space booked for it or anything. But anyway, one of our art material stores in Saskatoon said, sure, put it in my store. So for the summer, it sat at Hughes Art Materials, and kudos to them. I mean, they stepped up to the plate, and that just sat in their area in their store. It actually
Right.
gobbled up a bit of their floor space, but I don't know, maybe a few people actually came to see it there. It's kind of mostly artists coming there, right?
Most,
And
yeah.
realizing mostly artists would be at that venue, not the general public. But and I think they didn't have a pillar, so I made it look like a cardboard box, and I just stuck things to the side of a cardboard box, but it basically had the same look.
This is very apropos. I'm surprised that Trudeau's government, or what's his face, the mayor of Toronto, hasn't reached out to you and told them they want to buy this
May-
and put it in town hall. Tom Ford.
Yeah, maybe they will now. I hope not, because it's right now buried in it's in a couple of spots. I've got to find it. It would be awesome if that happened, because I think these kind of things it's subtle, but it's not like
Yeah.
you can walk around a few of our malls and request it, but you never know you got to go through so many committees and different things
Yep.
to do these things, and then they look at the repercussions, and they look at Nobody wants agitation. Nobody wants.
Oh, I don't think they care anymore. I think Tom Ford's pretty made that clear. And I think, well, Trudeau bows down to everybody, so he's a wuss. But Tom Ford, I think he's the kind of guy I think that would buy this and put this in City Hall or want it displayed, because I don't think Tom really cares. He's got, what has he got, a new cap, buy a Canadian or whatever,
Oh,
playing off the
it's
Magna hat. Yeah, I saw his
Doug,
baseball cap the other day.
yeah, it's Doug Ford actually.
Doug Ford, I'm sorry. I'm
Doug
thinking, yeah,
Ford and
close enough.
yeah, he was always about $1 a beer, $1 a
Yep.
beer. That's $1 a beer, Doug.
He looks like a dollar a beer kind of guy too. So,
He has history, and there's a lot
what do
of
you guys?
yeah,
So,
there's a lot of likes and dislikes there. But anyway, he is what he is.
yeah.
He's bigger than life for sure. Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Anyway, this is very different than my other kind of paintings,
Right.
and like my sculpture tends to be brighter on the brighter, bolder side, so I can see a pop art thing happening with some of my sculpture. But
Right.
I guess I've had 30 years of design background, you kind of adjust to what the client wants.
Right.
If you
Right.
need if you need something in red, you design something in red. If you need something to sell the job, to do what it needs to be done, you adjust your thinking.
Right.
And an artist can do that. You just because you paint flowers doesn't mean you can't paint a tree. Like it's just,
Right.
just step out of your safe zone every once. It's fun. It's fun,
Right.
and I think, yeah, I think you need to do that once in a while. I'm not encouraging artists. Yeah, go ahead. There's a living in it. There's not. There's not. Unless you're a major artist. That major, and I guess it comes down to if you can get a grant or funding for it, which is
Right.
rare. For or a business that wants to sponsor it, that would be nice. I tried with the Oblivious show with the deer carcasses, and they they scraped me off the table quicker than I got onto it. I was done. Wouldn't block my email. They did all kinds of things.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
no, they didn't want me bugging them anymore, and so you at that point you just okay, enough of that. I'll move on. Now we move on to this.
Ah, remember this?
So this came about over a fairly long process. It was we had an oil spill, a major one, 250,000 liters of oil leaked into the North Saskatchewan River, and it went all the way to Hudson's Bay. People realizing that Saskatchewan River goes from the mountains to Hudson's Bay. It's a
Right.
massively long river, and about halfway, one of the oil pipelines built along the top of the riverbank, if you can believe it, had a leak and went down the riverbank.
Hmm.
They didn't find it for a couple of days that there was a problem, and all this bitumen and oil leaked into the river. Now, bitumen is used to liquefy oil. That's what
Right.
makes it move through the pipe, and it's nasty stuff. So they said they gathered up most of it and sucked it up and got it cleaned up, but really they didn't, because it went all the way to Hudson's Bay. This stuff.
Hmm.
Oil sits on the bottom, but the bitumen floats. It's like gasoline, that stuff.
Right.
And so it really disturbed a lot of life that lived off the river farther up the a lot of our First Nations people use the river, and people recreation, and all the way up. They use it for water for their crops and drinking water, all kinds of things. It's fresh, clean water. So there was a call for entries from two galleries that said, let's do a response thing to this, and we'll have our artists create a response to this oil, because it affected both the cities of North Battleford and Prince Albert.
Right.
And initially, so they thought these two galleries would put something together, and so the call for, and it kind of dragged out, and I don't think as many people came in, and finally the curators, they pulled the show together, and I had made an initial proposal to do this three-dimensional caricatured cartoon, like a political cartoon of sculpture, but also show. I did a whole series of cartoons with this as well,
Right.
and I thought, and I made my proposal and all thing, got it all finished up and ready to deliver. She and she says, "No, that's not what I'm looking for." You can't come in. No show.
Right.
I spent 3/4 of a year working on this project and get refused
Right.
from the show. So I said, okay, well, that's what it is. And I ended up using this on social media for a year.
Mhm.
I had these Reg and Ethel and Squeegee, the little guy in the middle.
Okay.
So I had them on social media everywhere. In Ottawa, at protests, I had like photoshopped them into oil spills and everything,
Right.
all through social media for like a year and a half. So they got tons of play. They joined the Green Party. They actually have pictures with the Green Party, the president of the Green Party in Saskatchewan. I got pictures with her. It's funny.
Okay.
So they work for the self-serving company. How apropos that is. And so so they're in a gallery now, but only because I'm part of the members gallery and it's a members
Gotcha.
show. So so excuse my voice.
Is it for sale though? If somebody goes into the members gallery and likes it, can they buy it?
You know, everything's for sale. I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm using it still a lot publicly.
All
It
right.
stores in my studio, which takes a lot of room. But I just finished showing it again last year, and so it's a slow. People like it. Kids like it. The pictures taken with it.
Right.
It's
Right.
kind of a fun Disney almost thing, right?
Yep.
But initially, it's built with a little maquette on the right there. I did it all in plasticine.
Okay.
So it's about this big. So that's where I started, was through making a maquette.
Right.
And
Oh, there
then
they are.
and here they are in the process of cardboard boxes, basically,
Okay.
and glue and paper mache. And then
It's like your baby. You're not letting it go.
excuse me.
You're not letting that go, Paul, if someone asks you. That's like your baby.
Yeah. Anyway, they're just paper, glue, and
Okay.
gesso. Paint them, and then you paint them up to make them look like they are.
Gotcha.
So it's a long process. It's not a. Uh, I'd work on a bit and go do some other things, and I come back while it dries, and then I
Right.
work on it. But they're somewhat fragile. You can't just pick them up, throw them around, and they got to be taken care of because it's glue and paper.
Right.
And
Right.
every once in a while, I have to touch them up a little bit, and every time you move them, something get banged. You have to be really careful moving them around because they're how big they were. They're quite, when you look at, sorry, this one,
Yeah.
how big they are. They're almost pump size. They're
Yeah.
3/4 size of a gas pump. But they were fun to do. Um, I had actually gas receipts. That's what's coming out of Reg there on the right, and I
Okay.
glued them all together so that it has this. He is a curmudgeon in his own, and he's the oil and she's the vinegar. Like, she puts the fire out.
Gotcha. Very
And
cute. I always liked that one. That was always that and the Ravens have always been my favorite.
so what I did is I thought, well, they can see. Would it be nice if people could take away something
Right.
when they see a show? And of course, it costs money to do things, and printed catalogs and books. And so I created a zine. Now, a zine is basically an 8.5 11 paper,
Okay.
split, folded. It's printed one side, and these little booklets tell the story, and they have little scenarios that they go through. And I mean, I have. I have binder full of
Wow. There you go.
each one of them. And so what are we doing here? So if we go back to that image there, so the image, okay, whatever. I don't know if I did that one. I'm just trying to find the right image so I could read what it is. But
No
anyway,
worries.
they have there's a lot of small copy on there, but I'm just trying to figure out the one on the top. He says, Reg, you're starting to look a lot like an old paper dispenser. And he says, I can't help it if the last few customers never took their sales receipts. I guess they didn't want to get their feet wet. And it's just very funny, Ethel, right? That's the kind of that's kind of humor throughout all, little tongue in cheek and poke
Okay.
at what is happening in the industry. And so there's like a little fun takeaway things, but very good response to them. We had a lot of people that are saying, yeah, they would need to do this, but it comes down to where do you show them? Like, where do
Right.
you, I don't have 50 of these made that you can send them all across the country for a mass
Right.
opening somewhere. They don't open at a big art gallery in a major city. It's not
Right.
something there unless there's a call for entries for something. And we know how that works. You always get jerked
Yeah.
out. So anyway, you do them for yourself. My grandkids love them. So
There you go. That's all that matters.
you build everything for God. So
There you go.
yeah. So what's up next here? Ah,
This is the latest one because this is the one we've been seeing
well, yes, it
pictures
is.
of.
Of course, I get really ticked off with the amount of, we hear how much plastic is in our oceans, in our
Right.
soils. We take oil out, we create plastic from it, and eventually it wears out, breaks, we put it back into the soil. It's not the same.
That's right.
It's just that dinosaur doesn't look the same anymore.
There you go.
So I always thought we did a symposium. I'm part of a sculpture group, Prairie Sculptors, and we did a symposium at this one location in Manitou Beach for 10 days, and it was more of an R&D thing. I was trying to figure out how to make big flowers out of car parts, fenders and bumpers, and part of it is they were burying car fenders and bumpers. It was easier to bury them in the ground in our landfill than it was to grind them back up into little pebbles and reuse them. If they realized that a fender and bumper is all made from this little black bead, yes, it's nice and sweet when it just comes in a big bag and you pour it in and you can melt it and make whatever you need. But actually, I would assume it would be pretty easy to grind those little bumpers back up into little beads again. I don't
Right.
think it would be a problem. But anyway, that's my take on it. And there are different types of plastics. People understand that. So it's not as easy for the industry. They need to sort it out. But
Right.
so I ended up doing an awful lot of drawings, hundreds of drawings of how these may look. Like, you can only make certain things from the fender and bumper. It'll only bend just so much. It'll just do certain things. So I couldn't quite make exactly what I'm showing on the left there in the drawing, but it sort of is. It simulates, and I sort of wanted the feeling that that's a bumper. But if you look at it, I had a lot of people, they didn't know what it was. They didn't know where these parts came from. They didn't know what it was made out of. Even some thought it was metal until
Oh, wow.
I saw, go ahead and touch it. But basically, they're bumpers that have been split, opened up. Some are from mid-sized cars to imports and some domestics. And the rods they sit on are just conduit that I painted. So it was okay for an interior situation where somebody's inside a house or in a building. You could create these colorful bouquets. Yeah, they're very opaque. You can't make it translucent with light. You can't.
Right.
I've got some ideas that I was thinking about doing for later on for other things, but um, you could, for instance, drill holes of, say, a butterfly or dragonflies or bees into each of those petals and then
Mhm.
illuminate from inside. So at night they would illuminate
Oh,
like
wow.
bees. And yeah, they could do that.
That would look very
So
pretty.
that's a whole other thing where I might go down,
Okay.
especially with LED lighting and solar. You wouldn't have to even plug them in; they would just light
Right.
up. So they would be a nice thing to work with. Anyway, so this was kind of an R&D thing in 2022. So it's again, it's kind of a protest on, and I guess more of an awareness, not a protest, awareness to people as to where our plastics are going.
Okay.
We're getting better at recycling in Canada, but we got a long way to go, I think. I just don't know what my next image is. Oh, I'm going.
That's the one you just installed.
So now after 2022, that was my R&D
Right.
year. Um, it was fun. It was a ton of work. It taught me how to do this, what you're looking at now, which was in 2024, this past summer.
Right.
We had a symposium again for 10 days. And if anybody's been in a symposium outside, it's either blistering hot, windy, and rainy. Like it's as bad as being a plein air painter. So the tarps got blown away.
Right.
Anything that, and then the heat alone. So you have to drink lots of water, as they say, and work away at what you're building. So what we have here is we had an opportunity to make 10 major sculptures.
Mhm.
The city of Martinsville, Saskatchewan, which is just north of Saskatoon now, is now a city, decided they wanted to show more visual art in the city. So we made an opportunity. We get paid to work on these sculptures, but they get to basically have rent free for 3 years. They'll install them
Right.
throughout their city. I'm not showing that
Nice.
whole symposium, but I'm just showing what I did here.
Gotcha.
So I didn't get it all finished. Like it was finished to display. I'll show the very
Right.
end slide. But so it ended up being in their yard to be installed this coming spring.
Okay.
And it needed some extra work. So I went and got the flowers and brought them back to my studio. There's my studio on the left. As messy as it is, my floor space is lacking floor space. So let's need that. That's the biggest problem with sculpture. It takes space, and
Floor
I
space, yeah.
wish I had a large building I could store it in. But
You may have to start selling stuff, Paul.
again, yes. Well, this actually this one will be for sale. So as I make these ones,
Right.
Martinsville has the first option to buy after
Okay.
2 years. So they go that way. And so what I did is, yeah, I managed to get this all in my car. I couldn't believe it. The tall flower on the right there is about 10 feet high, just under 10
Wow.
feet high. And it was sticking out the window, and my hatchback was down, and I managed to drive out of town with this thing without getting a ticket. So you have to really pack everything, bundle everything up really nice so it doesn't scratch each other. But there are inserts put into each of the flowers so that the moisture will go just drip right through and down and out. So
Okay.
water's fine. Snow will melt. I can only imagine he's looking like big snow cones when the
I
snow
was just gonna
lands.
say, right when the snow hits, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a little shield piece I put on the inside, so
Okay.
you don't go right down into the very vessel in the bottom. I needed to stop the moisture from going down the middle of the pipe from the inside, so I didn't need that pipe filling up with water in the inside.
Gotcha.
So the pipe is made from galvanized post, like you
Okay.
have, the galvanized fences,
Sure.
chain link fence.
Yep. Yep.
So I had a recycler, or actually a company in town that puts them up, and I asked them for a couple of recycled pieces. Oh, no problem. I came back the next day and they had big chunks cut out of one. They were a gate. They were going to get rid of it for recycling. So they gave me the 2 or 3 of these pieces to use. So that was
Nice.
cool. And I'm really a proponent of reusing materials that you can,
Right.
especially in this context. But this one, I still needed it to look pristine a little bit and durable.
Right.
So you can see how this one has now become the second phase, where I learned how to do things in the first symposium. The bending of plastic, darn well the kids would have that bent in 2 seconds. It was just a little thin piece of conduit,
Right.
right?
Right.
So now this is a major piece of pipe going up there.
Hmm.
It's very strong. Um, it's up on a plate on the bottom there. You can see on the bottom piece that
Mhm.
they're secured, bolted, and things like that. They're now the very top one, the tall one is I don't know if I got another. No, I go back to the slide. Is actually a bird bath.
Okay.
So it'll hold about 3 inches of water on the very
Okay.
top. The bottom two would actually make good thing for birds' nests, but I don't think a bird will nest there because of the bird bath above.
Gotcha.
So, but it's kind of nice where you can put something that is not positive in your
Right.
soil, which is plastic, but you can put it up into a positive situation. So this is sitting in City Hall right now, till April or May when they pour the concrete base in front of the Veterans Hall in the building.
Okay.
So initially the top one is a poppy, and the
Hmm.
bottom two flowers are tulips,
Okay.
which they're kind of synonymous with Holland and World War II,
Sure.
one, and the poppy as well. So I think it makes a great space to, to live out its days publicly in front of their space. And,
There you go.
you're trying to find things that um, people can relate to. And this thing was never planned to be, say, in front of the Veterans Building.
Right.
That was the city council that decided, oh, it would be great there. I
Hmm.
didn't know that space was available. So they were very good about placing things around the city and getting them they make sense where they are, finding the right space for them to be in, where maybe adults can interact with them or kids, and they
Right.
all interact differently. Is a kid going to try and climb one of these poles? Maybe, um, not going to give them any ideas more than what they've already got. But anyway, this is where I'm at now, and so
Very cool.
I think, and you know what, when you
And
when
there's
you
Paul.
when you do sculpture, it really gives you a breathing from paint, 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 paint.
Right.
So um, I have to go. I'm going to go back painting again this winter yet, and I got to go back into the studio again. But I've got my sculpture out of the way. But you kind of you feed for the day, right? I feel like
There
I
you
need
go.
to do sculpture, and you say you can respond to it in one way, and I think I hope this inspires somebody to do
Somebody
something on their own. I mean, whether you do something small or big.
large. So
Um,
here's the question though we always ask everybody.
mhm.
So if somebody wants to buy something from you, what's the range? Like if someone wants to buy a tire raven, what does that cost? Or
Well,
the flower sculptures?
yeah. Well, the tires, if I had to buy them brand new, that's a whole thing. I was very fortunate to get those tires. If you looked at those tire pattern,
All right.
they're a special winter pattern that is curved,
Okay.
which almost look like feathers, right? So
Yeah.
you can't just put a tire down there. It's not the same. So you got
Right.
to really source out that. So, a tire raven, I'm, $2,500
I
probably.
was going to say a couple $1,000s for that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
$2,500. Probably cost that to ship it. I don't know. Unless you call
No,
it,
you put it on
unless
a
you call it
put it
two
on a
tires.
flat rate pallet. If you come to the U.S. apparently with all the new tariffs, it's going to be like
I'll
$70
just make
million.
tires down there.
There you go.
That done. Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
And
and
the tulips and the art, how about those? What's the range on that?
that three flower structure is probably about 15,000.
Okay.
Yeah, about 15,000 for that. There's a lot of prep work in these pieces, and
Right.
when you start building things for public
Right.
viewing, they got to take everything from an ice cream cone thrown at it to
That's true.
gosh knows what. But I'm just saying, a guy lean his bike up against it. So you
Gotcha.
really have to take kind of a lot of artists like to build little finessey little things.
Yeah.
You got to walk away from that. You got to really simplify, streamline. You don't want OH&S becomes a huge issue if there's sharp objects,
Right.
pointy things. Like there's a lot of things, and city councils and they're really aware of those, and they're concerned because they'll get sued.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
they don't want things falling down on them, even though a
Right.
person was hanging on it. They don't want something to
Right.
happen.
It still can't fall down.
Yeah,
So
and
that's very
so you've
cool.
got to be part engineer, big time.
Right.
You've got to pack your fine little thing off to the side and think streamline and larger, stronger, bigger Superman
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Bigger, stronger, better.
Right. Bigger, stronger, better. Sure.
Bigger, stronger, better, and it's a different mindset. And
Yeah.
I think that's what I like about it. It makes you think differently
Right.
because now you're thinking of the public isn't just coming in and looking at your paintings on the wall. They actually come in and touch your artwork and the
Right.
sculpture and give it a shake and
Yeah.
see if they can splash water or move it. I don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
It'll be.
Well, if I saw the
I'd ask
ravens,
them.
I'd want to touch the ravens because there's a tires. You're thinking, oh,
Oh,
that's cool. So
you
you'd want
can't.
to touch it, especially if there's no sign that says "Don't touch." You gotta, you want to touch and roll
They
around
bite.
with them.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
bite. They
there
bite.
you go.
Well, they do
So
because they got these little shards of metal, and you try to lift the darn thing, I'd be pokes you in the hand with these little pieces of belting that they're nasty sharp.
I was gonna say,
But
so
anyway,
shipping that as an event and setting it up as an event.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you know what? Maybe one day I should just have put them all up at the same time somewhere.
there
But
you go.
but
So
anyway, no,
that was
that's
really cool.
my
I
life.
like that, Paul.
That's my
Yeah,
life.
that was very good. Well, and you have to remember, you've been doing this now 2 years with us. So the people that saw you 2 years ago, you showed us Ethel and you showed us the Ravens. And then we were like, we should do a show. And that's how the show came. So for the people that never saw the first couple shows, now they go like, oh, this is who this guy is. Because, a lot of people are probably like, so he's a host. Okay, what does he know about art? Now they know what you know about art. So I think in a way that's very good. So.
Well, yeah, the host.
You're the
Well,
host with the
no, I
most.
appreciate it. It's a great opportunity to show what other artists can do,
Yeah.
and it's nice once in a while to show what I do. I mean, it's really fun. Otherwise, I have no venue.
I was gonna say this
All
is
I
your
have is
venue.
this is venue. I have no venue to show
Every
anything.
week you could do your own. You could just show your stuff. But I
Yeah,
know
public
next week we
show.
have somebody, and the week after, and whatever. So,
Yeah,
but no,
we
your stuff is wonderful.
no, we're booked into March, so we're gonna.
Oh,
There'll be yeah, our artist will be a really good artist. A couple of minimalist artists coming up in the next two shows.
okay,
So two very different, but
okay,
we're going to see them. They'll be very interesting.
very
I'm
cool.
enjoying it so much. I get to meet a lot of artists across the country.
Yeah.
A lot of people they'll know you through email,
Yep.
different things, and you'll do those kind of things. But it's kind of nice to actually talk to somebody about their work. And
Yep.
I appreciate you sitting at the other end of the desk there and
Oh, no worries.
talk
I
about
I
this.
love it. I listen to like this. I got to participate in, but most of the time I'm just listening and going, "That's really pretty." So I like most of the stuff that's out there. The minimalists are great because those are short shows. No, I'm just kidding. Because they're so minimal. But no, I like everything. We've had the sculptures that did the World War II. We've had sculptures that do funky stuff. We've had art. So for me, it's just like very cool. We had the one guy that did it out of like was making robot art. I mean, so we've had it all. So to me, it's very cool. And it's also a way for the public, not just in Canada, but the US and elsewhere, to be like, wow, because I don't think there's a lot of shows out there that say, listen, here's whether they're well known or not known. We had the famous artist from Monaco on that lives in Canada here. And people are like, oh my God. Like, I don't think they know. So this is a nice way for people just to see what's out there. And if they like something, buy it. And if they don't, at least they got a little bit of an education.
Yeah, and
So there you go.
you never know who's going to be famous,
That's
in the
true.
game. And
That's right.
I really encourage anybody who's a curator or a director of a gallery, a public gallery, or commercial gallery, reach out to some of these artists. They got
Yeah.
great stuff, a lot of them, and that's all I can do is encourage you to reach out to them. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy to do. All the
Reach
links are
out and
usually
touch them.
below, and follow the
Follow.
2OF channel, and they're all there
There
for
you go.
sure. And Artists in
Follow
Canada,
us.
on Artists in Canada, we post them as well, and there's an archive there and a listing, so
There you go.
we can do
And
it.
don't forget to subscribe and like, and as they say, reach out and touch someone unless you're Catholic.
You got-
And that is it, kids. We are done. Paul, it's always good to see you. I will see you next week with whoever our guest is. And for the fans that are watching and listening, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you next Thursday with we don't know who yet. So cheers, everybody.
Take care.